I get those goosebumps every time.
I just have to get the big fella off the bench.
Could this be their last chance now? In it comes, Monster to the front! He scored! Barry Monster scored!
I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too numb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need that hind to throw that to the side, I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. When you're not around, when you throw that to the side, I get those goosebumps every time, yeah. 713 through the 281, yeah, I'm riding. Why they on me outside? Sipping low key and hiding. I get those goosebumps every time. I'm around, yeah. You ease my mind, you make everything feel fine. Worry about those comments. I'm way too numb, yeah. It's way too dumb, yeah. I get those goosebumps every time. I need the hind.
Hello. Welcome to Loaded Mag, NUFC. Yes, we're back. We've been talking about this yesterday. We'll do a little show, round things up. State of play, loaded Q&A. And where do Newcastle stand now? What's happening? And there's loads of little things happening in the background, but there's now plenty of stuff we could put a show together on. So we'd say we come on and talk to you guys. But let's go and say hello to the boys first. Pete, how are you getting on?
Not too bad. Nice to have a break from actual football. Give us time to sort of reflect and think about other things before we kind of come back to it. But of course, Newcastle United always drag us back to having a conversation, and look, here we are. We're back again. But I hope everyone's well. Hope everyone in the chat's well, and of course, as people are dropping in the chat, it's a special day for someone today.
It is. It's for Chris. He's going to wonder what button he will press next. You have an option there, Chris. What button are you pressing? It's now deflected there.
I like that. I'm going to do what Pete done. I'm going to direct it back to you guys. But yeah, I mean, it's as Pete said, it's nice to kind of not have the football distraction. Now we've got a little bit of time to hopefully, reflect, have a little think about things, take a pause, and hopefully things will look a lot different before our next match against Fulham. But we'll have to see. But more interestingly, Daz, I want to know how your day's been, and big massive shout out for Daz's birthday today. So everyone in the chat, happy birthday to Daz.
Cheers. Thanks very much. Birthday today. So 44 years young. There, you wouldn't think it. Would you?
You wouldn't.
But cheers, lads. Just a normal enough day for me, working away and keeping an eye on what's happening in the background as well, and might do something at the weekend. You never know. No football on for us tonight, so you never know how it goes. But yeah, tonight we said we'd open the floor to cheers, Lisa, to you guys, and any questions you want to put towards us. But we also have a rather extensive list of topics we want to tackle as well. So, Chris, I'm going to give you the choice. Where would you like to start? As we're waiting for the questions, some of the questions with you, and maybe after we finish a topic, we'll go to some of the questions, because I imagine that'll kind of dictate where we go next. So, Chris, where would you like to start?
Do you know what? I'm gonna choose a little bit here. I'm gonna go with the announcement from Richard Masters, because I can see that as the first comment, and Tom got in there straight away. So I'm just gonna flash this up now. Tom puts in the chat, he's asking our thoughts on Richard Masters confirming a meeting's taking place in February where the changes to the profitability and sustainability rules system are set to be discussed. Now, I know that I think, Daz, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think we've got some imagery on that. And that is one of the things.
We do, Chris. So yeah, everyone knows that yesterday the accounts came out, and who were bad boys and who were not, I suppose, who broke the rules. And you can see Pep there sitting down to enjoy the news, not worried a bit about what's happening in the background with Man City, of course. But within the news dropped today, I saw it from Jordan and our friends in Newcastle world saying that there's a meeting happening in February, and they're going to look at different options around PSR, the new FFP, or had maybe it's been for a while, just we've kept calling FFP, but they're going to have a meeting and they're going to look at different options maybe to change it. Hopefully in Newcastle's favour. You can't get any worse anyway. But so that would be interesting, and why not? And that would be nice if that gets. It's not going to help us really for January, but help us out in the summer, because we've got a major rebuild in the summer to get through, and plenty of players to buy, because not an awful lot's happening in January. We will get into that. So, but what's your thought, Pete? We'll go to you. What's your thoughts on this one?
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that this announcement's come out. Normally, I don't think we would have probably heard this conversation maybe until sort of this time next year, in any sort of normal situation. But it's not a normal situation, in my opinion, for a number of reasons. It's not a normal situation for the Premier League because a lot of people haven't kind of mentioned this, but the Premier League need transfers. They need transfers. They need players moving from club to club because it generates interest in their product. They need players coming to play for the top teams. They want players to come from Europe and beyond in the January window and in the summer, because their partners, Sky Sports, and all the other media outlets, they need that too. And so what you can see this window is that nobody's signing anybody because nobody can. Nobody's got the money to. So they've backed themselves into a corner. And the reason why they backed themselves into the corner, because it's very clear. And look, LB was on our channel talking about, profit and sustainability and all the rest of it. We're now in a position where the big six, who ultimately this profit and sustainability was created for, in order to allow them to still maintain their status and being able to spend more money than anybody else, now are struggling. You got Arsenal that are rumoured to be close. Man United are rumoured to be close. Chelsea are rumoured to be close. They're looking at potentially trying to flog their £50 million midfielder in Conor Gallagher, who is arguably been, for a lot of Chelsea fans, their best player. And what that does now, it provides a massive problem for the Premier League, because they've now got their biggest assets, in their opinion, that are now not able to spend, and it hampers them in the Premier League, but also it hampers them in Europe, because they can't build and develop their teams to be the best in Europe, which is what the Premier League is built on, is being the best. So I think the fact that they've acted now says, and the fact that they're acting in February says that they want this in place for the summer. They want this in place for teams to be able to go and spend in the summer, and have that room for maneuver to get the very best players into the Premier League. And the one thing I think we all want is it to benefit Newcastle, as you just said a minute ago, Daz, and I agree. I don't see how they make this profit and sustainability situation better for the big clubs and it not benefit Newcastle. So for me, I'm looking at this and I'm going, this is great. Have this conversation. Get it done ASAP. Because if this allows Newcastle United to spend more money, then we're winners. We are massive winners in this. There's been rumours, and I think someone responded back to me on Twitter, on X or whatever it's called now, and saying about something to do with, they're looking at making it tighter. I don't see how that benefits anybody. That makes things worse. Like, I don't see that happening. The one thing I see it happening, and look, I honestly see it following the UEFA model, which allows for more spending. And that only benefits the club. So I'm all for it. I just didn't think it would happen this soon, but I'm glad it is.
Chris, so now that it's affecting the top six, They're going to do something about it and change it. But what about Everton? Poor old Everton. And they're looking at more potential points deductions. But what's your overall thoughts on this, Chris? And honing in on Everton and Forest.
Yeah, so this is why really I wanted to bring this up as the first topic, because I think I've been talking about it with the lads today, Liverpool and Everton fans, as it happens. And yeah, I mean, it's funny you saying what you said, Pete, about like it benefiting the top six and not necessarily the other clubs, because I agree with you. I can't see how it doesn't benefit all the clubs. I think it will open doors a lot more for the big six and for clubs like Newcastle, who've got rich owners, same as Aston Villa. It'll help them no end as well. If it just allows for a little bit more freedom and flexibility for clubs to kind of spend more, then it's only going to ultimately help the league, because as you mentioned before, the spend in this January transfer window has been so little, and they must see that, and the Premier League must be panicking a little bit, because the Premier League is the most viewed and the most popular league in the world, and the reason for that is because we can attract the best players. And if we start to, put restrictions on and stop clubs from spending the money that they've got, because obviously of the owners that they've got, that's only going to be detrimental to the league. I was discussing with the lads today, saying, if Newcastle United if our owners sold Newcastle United today and then announced tomorrow they were buying Luton, how on earth can they build Luton? How can they build them? Because under the current model, the current restrictions, it would take them years and years and years and years to be able to build Luton, because they wouldn't be able to go out and buy all new players, which they'd need. And, they wouldn't, it'd take ages for them to either build a new stadium or expand their existing.
Buy the houses around it.
Yeah, it would just be impossible. And so the clubs like Luton, as much as people say, oh, it'll benefit the top six and they'll have more money and they'll be able to buy all these players, it will also benefit the other clubs in the Premier League, because right now they're probably struggling equally, if not more, than the top six. Because at least with the top six, Pete, you mentioned Conor Gallagher. Chelsea could go and sell Conor Gallagher and get 50 million for him, 40 million for him even. What are these lower clubs in the bottom five going to do? Sell their players to the Championship and get 4 million and stuff like that? It's not feasible. So I welcome these changes, and that was met with quite a bit of laughter from my mates, because they were like, "Oh, no wonder you'd welcome it, because you have got all your money." And I said, "No, but you should be." And to be fair, my Everton mate was saying, really, a bit like what LB was saying, Pete, in that new owners should be able to come in and do what they want, at least for a period of time, or have a higher ceiling and just say, right, you can't spend more than 500 million, but at least they've got that opportunity to be able to kind of build the groundwork and be able to, get them up to a certain level so that they can at least challenge the top 10 or the top 8 or the top 6. Because at the moment, it's just not possible. So I welcome the move. And I think in terms of Everton and Forest, the biggest thing for me now is I'm interested to see the timing of it, because Everton fans right now are quite confident and quite bullish at the fact that they've already had their punishment, and they don't believe that another punishment is on the way. And they think if a punishment does follow a second punishment, that the initial punishment will be lowered. So they think they might get, I don't know, say they might get 6 points, but they reckon they'll get 5 knocked off the previous one or something like that. And that's if they even get a punishment. But what'll be interesting is what would happen in the scenario if, say, Everton were stung and were given another points deduction, or the original 10 points stood, and then Everton was to get relegated. And then in February, they went, oh, yeah, don't worry about that anymore. We haven't got that problem anymore. Surely Everton, Forest potentially, anyone else who between now and the end of the season comes up for, punishment, or, is open to a possible fine or a ban or whatever, surely they're going to turn around at the end of the season and go, well, hang on a minute, you punished us for, way back when, but now you've changed the rules and we wouldn't have been punished. So I feel like the Premier League have got to act pretty quick, or they're going to have to retract on everything they've done and say, right, everyone's had the wrist slapped, everyone knows the score, from now on we're doing this, and going forward you cannot break this, and let set it out, make it clear, make it, obvious to everybody what the new parameters are or what the new line is. But they do need to do something, because the January spend alone, you can see clubs are all just panicking, thinking, well, we don't want to get in trouble like Everton, we don't want to get in trouble like Forest, and you can't sustain that, because eventually players are going to go, I'm not staying here, or the club aren't building, the club aren't buying new players, and they're just going to end up moving. They're going to end up going elsewhere, and soon it will have a knock-on effect with wages. It'll have a knock-on effect with, squad capability, because people will go, oh, we've got to sell him because we need to buy more players, and you'll be losing all your best players. The league will be losing all the best players, and then eventually we'll lose viewers, and the league won't be as popular as it is now.
Yeah, that's one of the beauty of the Premier League as well, the whole transfer market, and if it's just closing down the January window more or less, it takes a bit of the gloss off the product. My understanding of it is that whatever they decide in February, or if they talk about it a couple of times, that would come into play in August, let's say, or whatever for next season. But it wouldn't alter what's already taken place and these rule breaks. And also from watching Sky yesterday evening, it said something about that. Whatever they do, it'll be implemented. They'll get, if there's fines, deductions handed out, that the appeals process would happen just shortly after the league finishes. So we could have relegation. We'll have the last day of the season. There'll be clubs that are relegated, but then we won't know if they're really relegated until after, if the appeals. It's just madness. It makes no sense, and it takes again tarnishing the product and our enjoyment of it as well. Thanks to everyone actually in the chat as well who's been sending happy birthday messages. Thank you. I'm going to take notes and make note of that as well when I watch it back. But thanks very much, lads. If we're to finish with that topic, let's go to the chat and see what the chatters want us to go to next. So what have you got for us?
Can I just add something on the profit and sustainability one? I think you made a good point, Chris, with regards to like, as I said, that the new clubs being able to build and kind of develop in. I think if you look at Newcastle United's situation, like we had a squad that just needed to be like ripped up and started again. And I think honestly, if we were given during when the takeover happened, if we were given 3 clear windows to make that happen, January, the summer, and then January again, and be told within that you didn't have to, that you could go and spend, go and rebuild that squad, go and build. I think that would have been more than fair. Like, we've done it over a period of time. We're still not done. Like we talked about the other day. We've got so many players that are on the verges of kind of leaving the club. Will they? Won't they go? And I think that would have been a fair situation for any new club. And I think it would be a fair situation if it was implemented. I do think though, and I don't know if you boys agree with me, that there's a part of me that thinks that they're implementing this for other reasons. And one of the other reasons for me is Man City. And we know about the situation with Man City and their 115 charges. Everyone keeps talking about it. Pep's there. Look at Pep. Like, he's got his cup of tea. He's got his
bobblehead.
He's chilling. He wasn't chilling on Saturday, by the way. I've never seen him react like that to a win. Ever.
Oh, I know.
And he's very, very comfortable right now. And Man City are, and they're about to break the record. I personally think they're going to win the league again. But I genuinely think that that the Premier League don't want to have a league like the Bundesliga, where Bayern Munich have won the league for like the last, 10 years, something like that. I think they want it to be more competitive. And I think ultimately, I do think that they will loosen it to allow other teams to spend. And it will allow Man City to spend too. But I honestly, genuinely think that they'll build this to ensure that other teams like Newcastle, like Liverpool and Arsenal can spend more money so they can buy better players and ultimately challenge Man City to take them out of their throne. Because, look, Man City are running away with it. They've got the best manager in the world, probably one of the best managers, if not the best manager of all time. Like, it's going to take something massive, monumental to break them. And I just think at this point, that we're going to be in a position where we're going to have to find something to stop it. We're going to have to try and stop it.
Yeah. We'll see how it plays out. Right. Where do the chatters want us to go next? Or if not, we can pick our own topic.
There's a number of questions in here. Okay. Okay. Tom Dixon has put a question and said, for the lads, what are your thoughts on Jose Mourinho's links to Newcastle United?
Oh yes, this one. I know, Chris. You did your own podcast this morning to us about this topic.
I did.
But yeah. So you broke the news actually to us this morning, Chris, and then it did put the thoughts into your head of yes, wasn't Jose Mourinho sitting down with people in Saudi well before Eddie Howe was on the scene, and. I suppose with things not going so well for Eddie at the moment, and actually I had another picture I meant to log put on here is the whole Sir Bobby Robson, Jose Mourinho, little magpie scenario as well. Is it only a matter of time, or sometime in the future? Is he going to manage Newcastle? And then there's a lot of debate about this. Some people are for it. Other people are saying no, Mourinho's time is done. He's got progressively worse. His football style is not what we want, and at Newcastle in comparison to Eddie Howe. Some people are saying, jump in quotes from ourselves and from what I've seen on Twitter as well. Some people are saying that maybe Saudi is the direction he goes in. Other people are saying international management, whether it be England, Portugal, or wherever in the future. But Chris, we'll go to you first. So on Jose.
Yeah. I mean, I'll tell you from the start what I've always had this theory about Jose Mourinho as well. Like, I'm a massive fan of his. Like, and the fella's a born winner. I like him anyway, regardless of the Newcastle links. I do like Jose Mourinho. I like his character. Although his character has changed a lot in recent years. He seems a little bit more relaxed than what he was. Whether he's lost that hunger, I don't know. He's still a winner, and he'll always be a winner. To me, I think he's somebody, who he wins trophies, and that's somebody I think that we need. I'm not suggesting that I want Eddie Howe out. All I would say is, if Eddie was to leave, Jose will be quite high up on my list. Like I've always argued. I've always argued with my mates and my family and stuff when talking about Jose Mourinho that I think he made a few poor career choices, because when he went, like for example, when he stepped into Man United and when he went to Tottenham and teams like that, I think the reason that he struggled is because of the personalities. Like the personalities of players these days has changed. Like, players have a lot more power. And if you remember when he was manager of Porto, he brought Porto from nowhere, and they went and beat Man United at Old Trafford. He turned them from a little team in European football. They were obviously big in Portugal, but a little team in European football, and then did really well with them. And then he came to Chelsea, did what he did, the special one, all stuff like that, transformed Chelsea, transformed the way that we've seen football being played in the Premier League. But I think as time's gone on, I always got the impression with Mourinho, he's the kind of man where he just commands respect. And I think there were certain players within the dressing rooms at both Man United and Tottenham where there was big egos and they didn't get on board with what Jose Mourinho wanted to do. And I always said he'd be a perfect fit for Newcastle. Like, for example, lads, a bit like with Rafa. When Rafa came in, he was like the elite. We hadn't seen a manager like that in years, probably since Bobby Robson, Kevin Keegan, etc. So he commanded respect instantly as soon as he walked in the dressing room. And I think it's the same with Jose Mourinho, because he's a winner, because he's a manager who's managed at elite level. He's managed some of the best players in the world. If he was to come into Newcastle tomorrow, I don't think there's any personalities who would kind of disagree. I could imagine him like arguing in the dressing room with players and going, "What have you won? What have you won?" Whereas he was having to deal with players like Pogba, who've obviously won a World Cup and stuff like that, and probably think that they know better than him. Whereas I always thought if Jose had gone to a club who maybe didn't have the trophies or maybe didn't have the big personalities, he would have commanded instant respect from the majority of the players. And I think if he joins Newcastle, I definitely think we'd win something. I really, really do. But I will caveat that, and I will end that and say I'm not saying I want rid of Eddie Howe and I want Jose Mourinho. All I'd say is, if Eddie was to leave and the owners wanted to go and get that elite manager, as in that manager who's been there, seen it, done it, Jose Mourinho would be near the top, if not top of my list. I think he'd be brilliant. And obviously, you know, that affinity, that love affair with Sir Bobby Robson, I just think it'd be magical. And I think he'd embrace it. He'd get the city, he'd get the fans, and I think everyone would get behind him. So my eyes kind of popped out this morning when I saw that he'd left, because I thought, one, he's of interest, of course he is, and any ownership, I think, would want Jose Mourinho, but also I think it just cranks the pressure up on Eddie a little bit, because obviously, naturally, as we've seen on X and we've seen around all different socials, it started to put a little bit of pressure on Eddie, in terms of people are now starting to whisper and go, are they going to get Jose Mourinho? Are they going to say, I mean, I think I said to you boys, it wouldn't surprise if, you know, the owners maybe had a word with Jose Mourinho and said, listen, don't take any jobs, summer, we'll be back, kind of. Do you know what I mean? I just think it cranks up the pressure. And for me, I would, like, if he joins, I would be delighted, I'm not going to lie, because the man wins trophies. That's what he does, and he'll do it at any cost. And you know, Pete's always talking about like shithousery, like shithouse mags. That's him. That's him.
Yeah,
that's him. And he would
laundry basket.
Mate, he'd rattle everyone. He would rattle everyone, and we'd love him. Everyone would hate him, and we'd love him. Imagine him battling with Pep. It'd just be amazing. But as I say, that's not me going, oh, get Eddie out. I don't want Eddie anymore. It's just that if the results continue, if we end up, you know, having a really poor finish to the season, and the last thing I'll say before, obviously, yourself, Daz, or Pete, you jump in, is, like I said a few weeks ago, if the owners continue to not back Eddie in this transfer market, Eddie's saving the money up for a new man in the summer. If you give Jose Mourinho 300 million in the summer, I still think Eddie Howe needs help. He needs help, and he's not getting it at the minute. Hopefully there's some on the way, and I know we'll touch on this a bit later because we've got another couple of topics to discuss, but he needs help, and he needs help now. And if he doesn't get help, it's leaving me thinking, well, what are we waiting for? What are we doing?
Pete, I'm not sure if you got to listen to all of Chris's podcast this morning on Mourinho, but
I caught it.
Yeah, but I have a feeling you're on a different page to Chris with Jose Mourinho. But what's your thoughts on this one?
No, I'm on the same page in terms of I love him. I love Mourinho. I do. I just think he's a personality. He's a winner. He just knows how to win matches, and he's got an affiliation with the club through Sir Bobby Robson, and he knows what it means. He knows what it means through Sir Bobby Robson to kind of understand and love Newcastle United. Do I think he wants the job? I think he 100% wants the job. I think he'll wait for it. There's no doubt about it. He will want the Newcastle United job. And I would not be surprised if results don't go our way at points between now and the end of the season, that he's not pushing his agent to have that conversation. He's that type of manager. When he wants a job, he will do whatever he can to get that job. That is what Mourinho does. However, I've got a slight concern about Jose Mourinho. I mean, there's a number of reasons. His last few jobs haven't gone great. So his stock has fallen. For as great as a manager is, his stock isn't where it was. There's question marks about whether he's finished at club management. There's a lot of rumours about him going into international management. We talked earlier on about, there could quite well be the England job available in the summer after the Euros and Southgate moving on, which I expect him to do. I think this is his last tournament. But also Portugal. There's rumours about Portugal as well. My other concern, and this is the big one, is I'm not sure Newcastle fans will get on board with his style of play. And I think that's a big thing for Newcastle United. We want to see free-flowing attacking football, which is what Eddie Howe's brought to us, which is what got us Champions League football, which is what's really kind of entertained a lot of Newcastle United fans over the last 18 months. I just think the style of football may well become a problem for Newcastle United if he was to take over, because it is very, very different to Eddie Howe's style. Now, that's not to say it won't win matches, and it is not to say it won't win trophies, but I think it's not something that we associate. It's like, other clubs like Tottenham had the same issue. They didn't like his style of play, his defensive-minded style of play. Man United, when he was there, didn't like that style of play. They had this mentality of counter-attacking, attacking football. We're quite similar in terms of we like our players getting forward, attacking, scoring goals.
Yeah.
Jose Mourinho is very much, if he sees a game where he thinks he can sit it out for 1-0, whether he does it or not, that's his mentality. And I just think if you look at the players that Eddie Howe's built and brought into the team, I think there's a number of them that probably don't suit Jose Mourinho's style of play. And I just think it could cause problems. Players could potentially leave the club that are really good players. I'm concerned that it could potentially cause a few issues there. They're my only concerns. But ultimately, I do think Eddie Howe will still be in the job. So I think he'll get until at least the end of the season. If we get European football of any sort, he'll stay. He'll get the next season. If we don't, I think there may be question marks, but at that point, who knows? They're just my initial Jose Mourinho thoughts, and I was playing a little bit of catch up there, so that's kind of where I'm at.
Cool.
Just to be clear as well, Daz, sorry, I was just going to say, just to be clear, I completely agree. There's no way between now and the end of the season Eddie's gone. No way. He sees the season out and he deserves that. Where he finishes, I mean, we can get to that. Maybe Daz will touch on it, but he's definitely seeing the season out. There'll be no plans to change the manager at any point between now and the end of the season. It's the summertime, and depending on where we finish, that's when I think the discussions may take place. But anyway, sorry, Daz, go on, mate.
No. I agree that he gets to see the season out. At those next 5 games, though, if he was to lose all 5 of them, and then that's been out of the cup and against then we're into the revenge tour, then I'd start to be getting doubts, and he does need to start looking over his shoulder, because Mourinho will be peering in and wanting to see some of the action. But no, I'm still all on for Eddie Howe. I think if Eddie Howe was to depart in some fashion, I'd see Mourinho for 2 years. That's all he'd hang around for anyway, and see what he could do. But I'd also like to see all the other options out there as well at that time.
Can I just give a shout out to David? David Tofield. He's put, cannot believe even discussing Mourinho. 30 seconds now and move on. Look, we're reflecting it. It's not quite 30 seconds, but basically, it's exactly what we said. We admire him, but Eddie Howe stayed.
Yeah.
We just took about 5-6 minutes to do that.
Let's move on to the next one. Where we go next, lads?
Ooh, what do you reckon?
Let's have a look. Interesting question. Something a little bit different from Connie. Does Steve Nixon, chief scout, have a future at Newcastle United? No cheap, good signings like some South American.
You've got to go to Daz first for that one. Got to go to Daz first for that one.
Connie, you read my mind here. Yeah, if I was Steve Nixon, I'd be pretty pissed off. I'm handing all these names on the plate, or we're being linked to all these names if we are in the mix or looking at them. And I imagine it's all linked to Steve Nixon. I'd be thinking that if I see them going other places and then becoming, case in point, Marco Leonardo that would have been Benfica and scored, and I got loads of DMs and loads of Twitter messages on that when he scored in his debut for Benfica for 18 million. Don't start me off on that one, but I for him, I'd start questioning what am I doing there? Especially if his focus is South America, start bringing players in from there. What he's wasting his time otherwise. But then again, I know they need to be mindful that they can't gamble so much yet. Maybe the summer might be. I say this every time, but maybe the summer we gamble on a few South Americans, and our time is coming. And but yeah, if it doesn't, he's wasting his time, isn't he? Any other thoughts there?
You might feel that way, yeah. I mean, it kind of takes you back to Ashley days, doesn't it? Because we remember hearing boys for years and years, didn't we? You know, oh, we looked at Aubameyang, oh, we looked at Lacazette, and then we just ended up with somebody else, and it was like, oh, I wish we got them instead.
Graham Carr, yeah,
Graham Carr, yeah, exactly. When he was pinpointing loads of bargains out there and loads of real young talents, and Mike Ashley wouldn't, stump up the money. Whether or not it's the same situation for Steve Nixon in terms of, whether I want to call them the transfer panel, but I don't think it is purely down to the recruitment team. So Steve Nixon and his scouts, I think, the owners are involved. I think the director's involved. I think Eddie Howe's involved. And I get the impression there's got to be a little bit of an agreement, because when we watched the Amazon documentary, when they were talking about Anthony Gordon, it was like, we all want Anthony Gordon. Everybody wanted Anthony Gordon. So they pressed the button and got it done. Probably the same for Isak. Probably the same for, other players that we've signed in recent times. But maybe these South American players, or certain South American players that we've been highlighting, like Franke, who went to Palace, and players like that, they just don't want to take the risk, because the owners keep saying, don't they, we can't get our transfers wrong. We can't afford to get the players that we bring in wrong. Is that why we're going more down, the Premier League experience route, or the English route, so that we know that the players can come in and bed in immediately? I don't know, but all I will say is, in recent times, Sandro Tonali aside, perhaps, the 3 elite players that we keep talking about and we say that we don't want to lose are all players that we got from abroad. So Alexander Isak, you Sven Botman, and you Bruno Guimaraes, they were the ones that we went for, and they're the ones who've been the big catalysts. They've been the players that have really made a difference to our starting 11.
I do think Sandro Tonali will be part of that.
Yeah,
that sort of that he'll add to that and become a quartet really of top players that we've brought abroad. Well, when we've gone in on a player, we really have gone in, and that they have been a success. And I actually think this break will be the making of Sandro Tonali. I really do think he'll come back and light up the Premier League next season. But I think you made a really good point on South American players and the recruitment element. I just wanted to touch on Graham Carr, because actually Graham Carr, you're right, he pinpointed some fantastic players. Yeah. If it had gone Graham Carr's way, we'd have had Lacazette and Aubameyang as our 2 strikers, which just sounds frightening now. Obviously, they're past their kind of like best, but back then they would have completely destroyed the Premier League. But going back to your South American point, I think that's the issue that Newcastle United have had with buying young South Americans, going and buying Bruno Guimaraes, who's already had experience in Europe, playing for Lyon, playing in the Champions League, wasn't that much of a kind of as much of a risk. But when you're looking at Mateus Franca, Palace haven't even really seen him play since he signed, and we're sitting in January. Santos been, I think, if I'm right in thinking, he's been given back to Chelsea. He hasn't really cut the mustard, and they were ones that we were banking on. We were saying, go get them, go get this young talent. And this is the thing, is that you made a point, and I think that's exactly where Newcastle are, Chris, is that they cannot afford to miss with some of these players. And this is probably why Marcos Leonardo, who Foxage said, and we knew about this anyway, is that he came off the bench and scored for Benfica. This is probably why they didn't want to take the risk on him, because they didn't know whether he would come in and do a job and light up the Premier League, because they're looking around at the other ones that they missed out on, and they haven't done that. Whereas, in comparison to that, in my opinion, Brighton can afford to take that risk. Brighton can afford to go and get a Valentin Barco for 10 million and bring him in. And for me, him coming in means that that Estepiano, I can't pronounce his name, but the left back who's
very
sensational
good
for Brighton. That says to me that at some point, unless they play him left wing, which Barco can play left wing, it says to me that he's going to leave in the summer. And what they'll do, they'll transition him out, get big money for him, and then Barco will come in and be that guy. Brighton can take that risk.
Yeah.
Newcastle United can't, because in the reality, and I've said this to Maz on 12th Man, I've said it before, that in reality, where Newcastle United are aiming to go is way beyond Brighton. Brighton are doing fantastically well at the moment, but they are probably at their peak right now. Because as we've said before, Southampton and a number of other teams, they go through these phases of getting great players, selling them on for big money, but then it just drops at some point. You can't keep doing it forever. You've got to build a team. And we're not in a business to make risks. We have to get these players that are right and good enough for this team now. Like, that's just the reality of the situation. So I think the South American market is going to be one that I think we are going to be kind of tiptoeing around for a little bit in terms of kind of trying to find our feet there. And we're going to keep talking about on this channel South American players that go, oh, like he looks a tasty player, like he could do the business, and we might not get him. I think we're going to find that that's going to be the case unless we get in a scout from South America that really knows his stuff, that we can trust, that goes, that's the guy. You need to go get him because he's brilliant. And we trust that and we take advantage of that. So it's one that we will explore going down the line. But look, let's face it, Chelsea, Man City, Brighton are ahead of us in that market at the moment.
Well, Foxy, you know where to send your CV. St. James's Park. Pete, an aside question here. Where are you playing Barco? I'm playing him left wing because I've got Trips and Livramento on the left and right.
You know what? Yeah. You know what? I play left back. Yeah, I've got Barco, Lewis Hall, who I'm trying to develop as a left back. He just don't. He's not.
I'm thinking of selling him.
Yeah, he's not cutting it. And then I've just bought in Ndoggy from Tottenham. So they're my left backs at the moment. But he does well. But he doesn't excel at left back. So I'm thinking it might be the wrong position for him. But I've got Gordon and Barnes left wing. So he's not getting in.
See, okay. Last Football Manager comment. I played him left wing. In the last game, he scored 2 goals. There you go. Right, let's move on. What's the next topic in the chat? Or we can pick one of our own.
Well, seeing as we're on the South American tour,
we're going there.
J7,
is it?
No, I don't want to talk about that.
No, we can, because it is part of that conversation. But actually, what was really interesting, Tristan Hall put in quite early in the show. He put, I think he's meant to put, guys, good news. Newcastle are trying to sign Edison. It's on Sky Sports. He's coming in as a replacement, either for Bruno or for Phil Bakery. I'm not sure who Phil Bakery is. I'm assuming we can only assume it's the big man. It's this man here. We can only assume it's replacement for him for the end of the season. But so, boys, we could probably do that as a double whammy, really, because we've got Joelinton that's potentially looks like he needs surgery and he's out for the rest of the season. And then we've got new links to Atalanta's 24-year-old Brazilian midfielder, Edison.
Atalanta's or Newcastle's?
I love I'm not gonna lie, boys. I love these picks, man, when they come up.
Yeah. Oh, they're class.
What do we think?
Yeah. Well, just a bit of background. I suppose where I started seeing it first was Tim Vickery, who started talking about it, so the clip about him, and he was bigging him up. Of course, he's also was saying that is he a kind of a replacement for this man? Or is there something happening down the line with this man, with Bruno G? No, we're all saying no. But he's if you look up about him, he is listed as a defensive midfielder. I would class him in the mold of a Bruno Tonali. He can play in a number of different positions, and he can score a few goals as well. He scored a few goals this season. He looks pretty decent, and around the 40 million mark. But where are we getting 40 million from? Do we have 40 million? Is there some kind of a deal that we can pay some now and pay some in the summer? How is that going to work? Yeah, go from there.
Yeah, it's an interesting point you make, Daz, because we saw Eddie Howe, didn't we? I think it was in the pre-match press conference against Man City, and he was like, Dominic Solanke, can't afford him. So, I don't know how much Eddie values Dominic Solanke at, but I'd probably value him in the 40, 50 million, and I certainly wouldn't want to pay 40, 50 million, by the way, but I think that's what Bournemouth would value Dominic Solanke at. So the fact that he comes in around the same price as that does worry me a touch, because unless, of course, we've just found some money from somewhere, I don't know. Well, when I say found some money, we have the money, but whether we've found out that we can actually spend a little bit of money, I don't know. But I think if these rumours are true about Joelinton, I think it's sensible. I think it's wise to look for a central midfielder. Whether or not the reason we've been linked with him is because Atalanta will be willing to do a kind of loan deal with an option or an obligation, that feels like a more realistic deal for us to do. Because let's be honest, if we bring in someone like Edison on a 6, well, technically it's 5, isn't it? But a 6-month loan deal with a view to a permanent transfer at the end of the season, you're getting your permanent player, but you're not outlaying the money until later on when it becomes an obligation or if it's an option. So whether a deal like that could be struck, I don't know. But the news of us being linked with a central midfielder excited me. The news of us being linked with a central midfielder who could play in the number 6 role excited me. So much so, boys, so much so. It's been a while. I thought
He's back.
I need to get myself on SofaScore here just to have a little look. Just I don't want to get too excited, and everyone at home, I don't want to excite you too much. But I did a little bit of a comparison on Mr. Edison against Calvin Phillips, who's someone else that we're looking at. So Calvin Phillips is a player who apparently has been on the radar for a little while, 7.5 million loan free apparently. But Newcastle, those talks with Newcastle have allegedly broke down, and it now looks like he's likely to go to Palace or Spurs. So
West Ham.
Where's West Ham now? Are they the next one? Oh wow, okay. That'll be an interesting one. I'd like to see where he fits in at West Ham. But yeah, well, there you go. So yeah, it looks like he's not coming to Newcastle anyway, that's for sure. So what I did was I did a little bit of a comparison on Edison against Calvin Phillips. And Daz, it kind of matches up with what you've said. So Edison is in the green and Calvin Phillips is in the blue. And as we can see, there's a little bit of a wider frame on his creativity, attacking and technical ability in terms of Calvin Phillips, but his defensive stats pretty much match up line for line. So they look very, very similar, Edison and Calvin Phillips. And that led me to think, well, I don't just want to compare Calvin Phillips. Let's compare him to another player who's kind of come into the Premier League and is doing a job at the moment. And automatically I thought of Liverpool. I thought, well, Endo's come in from the Bundesliga, and he's been doing a job for Liverpool, and he was brought in as a number 6. So I thought, well, how would Edison compare to, say, Endo? So this is Endo. And again, Edison is in the green and Endo is in the blue. So Edison... interestingly, Edison's got similar attacking stats to Endo. But to be fair, Endo has scored a couple of goals in the Bundesliga. I think he's yet to score for Liverpool, or he may have one, but he's not prolific. But he certainly sits in that defensive role. But again, as we can see, Edison's stats defensively are stronger than Endo's. So if we were to bring in a player who defensively is more capable than Endo, I'd be reasonably happy with that. Liverpool got Endo for a bit of a bargain. I think he ended up costing them 13 million. But if Edison could come in and do a similar job to Endo in shoring up that defence. And let's not forget, boys, it would free up Bruno to then move a little bit further forward and play, as a more of a number 8 or a more attacking midfielder. I think we've all acknowledged that is something that going forward that we want. If we could trust Edison to sit in front of the back four and allow Bruno the opportunity to go forward as we know he wants to and play those key passes that unlock defences, that would be good. And that led me, when I was thinking about Bruno Guimaraes, to then look and see how Edison compared to Bruno Guimaraes. And of course, there's only one Bruno, isn't there? Let's be honest. I mean, Edison might be good, but he's not Bruno. But there again, Edison is in the green and Bruno is in the blue. So Bruno looks a more well-rounded player, I'd say. And he slightly beats him on the stats and everything like that. But let's not forget, Edison's 24. He'd be coming into a new league, and from what I've seen in various little clips I've watched, not extensively, but he looks like he comes with a pretty good reputation. So I mean, that is open to be seen. But Pete, what are your thoughts on the links with Edison, and do you think that Edison is a player that, one, we may be looking at, and two, a player that you feel would be good for us going forward?
Yeah, I think if we're going to lose someone like Joelinton, who Eddie Howe quite rightly said is irreplaceable. For what he gives us on the pitch, he is massively irreplaceable. And I just think we're going to have to change tact and do something a little bit different. And, looking at the stats, the interesting stats for me, and I'll put them on the screen here.
Yeah, go on, mate.
The interesting stats for me are these ones here. So these are Edison stats in a defensive remit. Now, if you look at his heat map over the course of the season, he does play a lot deeper within his role. And he does play that number 6 role. He can get forward, but not as often. He spends a lot of his time in his own half defending. And this matches up with his stats here in terms of the amount of blocks that he makes over the course of 90. Passes blocked in the top range of the percentile. Blocks in general in the top range of the percentile. Dribbles tackled or dribblers tackled in the top an element of the percentile, and tackles in the mid-third, which makes sense because his heat map is in around that midfield third. That's what we're missing. This is what we're missing. This is what we've been crying out for so long now, in terms of having that player that can break up play, that can stop people playing, that can stop breaking those lines of midfield, as De Bruyne did, Foden did, and, likes of Morgan Gibbs-White in previous games. We need someone that can sit in that position and break things up. And look, these here, in this section here, prove that. It shows it. And that was a big takeaway for me. That was the big standout for me in terms of those stats in isolation, because he brings something potentially, if he signs, something different to this midfield that we don't currently have. And that's what we need to look at. We need to look and try and delve into. We wanted Calvin Phillips because he offered something that Newcastle in that midfield didn't currently have. Edison, although a little bit more expensive, would give that. He's only 24 years old. Didn't we?
Great age.
Didn't we buy Bruno Guimaraes at the same age? So there's no, there's no concern there. He's got years ahead of him to be able to develop on that. I just think bringing him in would be a great move at that age to develop, bringing him in alongside 2 other well-known Brazilians to get him acclimatized to the English game, to the area, all that stuff. It'll be a lot easier a transition with Joelinton and Bruno already there. He's got a fast-tracked route to the Brazilian national team because he's already there. In being a mainstayer, being a regular player, he could break into that team playing for Newcastle United and be that main guy, with Casemiro sort of coming on into his 30s now. I just think it would be a great move if it could happen. And on top of that, Bruno Guimaraes gets to play in the position he wants to play, which is number 8. And that moves him right further forward up the pitch to influence the game how he wants him to. So for me, it just sounds like a great move. It sounds like a great move for Newcastle United. The big question is for me, are they going to do it?
Do we have the money? And can a deal be done that would allow us for it to happen in January? Or throw another twist into it with all this talk of Spurs first, then Crystal Palace, and now West Ham, and what's coming up with our own alternative today. Is it all smoke and daggers, and is it all leading back to we still want Phillips, and it's just all gamesmanship? Who knows how it's all going to play out? Are we completely out of the Phillips race? Is what I'm trying to say. Who knows?
Can I just throw this up, Daz, just really quickly on the back of what you said there? Because Ed Aarons, who is a well-known journalist and does get a number of things right for Newcastle United, actually put this out today, just a few hours ago. He understands that Calvin Phillips' agent is negotiating with Man City over the size of the loan fee for the England midfielder. Several clubs, and it includes the likes of Palace, West Ham, Tottenham are not in that conversation, but no doubt they could be if they wanted to. But interestingly, Newcastle is still in that kind of conversation there, even though it was reported that we'd walked away. What are your thoughts, boys? And I'll ask you this now with regards to what Ed Aarons has said. Like, do you think if they were to narrow that loan fee down, do you think Newcastle would potentially come back to the table?
I think they would. I think they're going to bring in a defensive midfielder. It's just who it might be, whether it be Edison, whether it be Phillips, whether it be someone else. Especially with J7 looking like he's gone potentially for the rest of the season. If that turns out to be fully confirmed, then we're limiting our options, and we're looking at maybe players that can drop back into midfield as well in certain games. With Bruno is a one booking away now from a 2-match ban. Look, we need something, and we know we have players coming back, but when are they coming back? That seems to get longer and longer for some players. So I think we're going to bring in someone. We have about 15 days or so to find out.
I think the Calvin Phillips deal was always going to go to the wire, and I think we spoke about this actually, lads, and we said that it's going to be very much who caves in first, because City are obviously hold the advantage because he's their player, but ultimately they will want Calvin Phillips off the books. It's quite clear, isn't it, that he hasn't got a future under Pep. I think Pep's decided he doesn't want to play him. I thought it was quite interesting the way Pep named him on the bench, and I did think, I wonder if he'll bring him on, and he didn't. Which again didn't surprise me, but it was almost as if to say, well, he's our player, we'll use him if we want to, kind of thing. But I do think Calvin Phillips will get the move in the end, and it's whether or not City kind of keep that stance, because let's be honest, if it gets to the 1st of February and he's still a Man City player, the only losers really are Calvin Phillips and Manchester City. They will want him off the books, and the fact that it's so open and it's so out in the media that they want rid of him, that kind of weakens their hand, in my opinion, because normally, you say, I don't want to lose this player, it's going to take a lot of money for anyone to kind of come in and get this player, and then they always, nearly always the player goes, and it's always an astronomical figure. So I think City would always been lucky to get that 7.5 million. It's like what we're seeing with Conor Gallagher. Chelsea keeps the rumours won't go away about Conor Gallagher, but it still consistently says 50 million. They won't drop much below that. May go a little bit below it eventually, but it'll be in the 40s. I think it'll be in the 40s. I don't think it'll go much lower than that. And again, the reason that Chelsea probably want to sell him is that Chelsea will get a big chunk towards their FFP, because obviously Conor Gallagher was a academy graduate. So that whole chunk of money will go towards their FFP, whereas someone like Phillips, Man City have already put him on a big contract and they paid a lot of money to bring him into Leeds. So it probably won't make that much of a difference to Manchester City. Cheers, Tad.
I was going to say,
as long as he's
earlier.
As long as
In
his
the
park
chat.
is worse than his bike, Chris, and he can do a job there, defensive midfielder. Sorry, Pete.
No, I'm not going to say. I was going to say what you put in the chat earlier with barking on the voice note.
Oh yeah, shut up, Ted.
He hasn't shut up all day. He just hasn't shut up. We've had people knocking. It's just been like he just keeps barking, and where you're just like, oh god. But it is what it is.
I'll just steal the chat just for 1 second, just because I've heard this. Just this comment up from Stevie Warner. We put we need Marty Bird from the Ozark. We don't, because we'd end up out of business. The club would be ruined with Marty Bird. We'd have great success, and then we'd probably end up like Man City, where we'd have like 115 charges, and he'd be bailing. But no, I'm glad someone tip their hat to the Ozark, because it is a fantastic.
I've never seen that. Good. Never seen that.
Good, mate.
Another one to the list, fella.
Pete got me on it. Pete got me on it. It is really good. Really good.
I know, Pete, you put it in our private chat here as well, but shout out to Colin as well. Cheers, Colin, for the super chat donation to the channel. And always Colin comes with the question, or not. But thanks, Colin. Always appreciated.
We're gonna name you No Comment Colin from now on, because we don't hear anything from you, and we want you to put something in the comment.
Where are we going next, lads?
Did we talk about Joelinton? Did we mention?
Not really.
Just how big is it? How big of a blow is it, boys? Just in your opinions, quick kind of summary of him. Look, we have to say they haven't. I think they're looking at making the decision in sort of the next 24 hours. It's being reported. They've not decided that he is definitely having the surgery, but they're saying what we're hearing is that they're not willing to take risks.
Well, my immediate knee-jerk reaction was, that's it, the season's over. I was so pissed off. It's one thing after another. God, bring on next season, bring on the summer transfer window, and then let's see where we go. But yeah, look, there's still the FA Cup to play for. They're still trying to get into Europe, and if we do bring in a midfielder to try and help us out a bit and help Howe out, because as Chris said, he really needs the help and needs the backing as well. Some way come up with a deal that works and will not break PSR rules or however as well. That may not exist come next year, or may not exist to the same degree. But it is a massive blow. Powerhouse in the beast that is Joelinton. Even if it was 6 weeks, it's still massive. So whatever, if he's out for the season, and we won't get to see him, lads, as well when we're over in March as well. So across them off that we won't get to see.
No, I echo what Dad says. I mean, we heard the way Eddie Howe described him, and Joelinton, since he's been moved into that central midfield, has just been pivotal. And I think the thing about Joelinton for me is the fact that he's so different to what everybody else is. Like it's that physicality, and we were talking about it, Pete, weren't we, on the away days at one point, saying that I forget who it was. It might have been, was it Errol? And he was talking about maybe putting him left wing, and we said arguably he's played his best football at left wing, but you miss his physicality in the middle of the park, and you can't replace someone like Joelinton. It's very, very difficult, because we've got a lot of really good players who play in the central midfield role, but none of them are like Joelinton. So he'll be a huge miss. He kind of epitomizes like that ugliness in the middle of the park. He reminds me a bit of a throwback, of like a Vieira or a Keane. He's just that player that nobody wants to mess with. And it's funny because whenever there's a big kickoff, as soon as I'm always shouting, go ahead, Joe, go get them, Joe. And as soon as Joelinton goes over, you can see everyone go, sorry. And Joelinton's just fuming. I just love him. I just think he's brilliant, and he will be a big miss. And hopefully it is just the 6 weeks, but 6 weeks is a very long time, regardless. And if he's out for the whole season, we can't be left with potentially no Willock for a while, no Anderson for a while, no Joelinton, no Tonali, just going on the bare scraps of Longstaff, Bruno, and Longstaff, Bruno, and Marley. And I'm not calling them scraps, but what I mean is we've only got three players to fill 3 positions. It's very, very risky, very, very risky. And I just hope that the owners and Eddie and the coaches and the directors are all looking, going like, we need to bring someone in. We've got to do something. And maybe this is where this Edison links come from. I don't know. But yeah, fingers crossed. We get good news on Joelinton and it's not the operation. But equally, I still think we need to bring someone else in anyway.
And throw into the mix as well the whole story about his house being burgled as well, while the game was on. Not a good time. It's another thing to add to the list of series of unfortunate events that's happened for everything Newcastle related. But Pete, your thoughts on us missing J7?
Yeah, I think with Joelinton, I think looking back now at Eddie Howe's press conference when he said they've had to really everyone at the club has had to really lift Joelinton because of his latest injury. I think that told the seriousness at the time, but we just didn't know it. Like, he just loves being on the pitch and playing, and he hates missing matches, hates coming off. He played injured against Brighton at the Amex earlier on in the season. We weren't happy about it because we knew he was injured, but he's just that way inclined. He just wants to be on the pitch. So it's a massive blow. Honestly, boys, I don't see a January transfer window without us bringing at least one player, to maybe even 2 in. I just can't see it. It might well happen, and if it does, I'll be shocked. I will. And at this moment in time, when we're being told that we're not going to do any business, I've probably got no reason to be shocked by it, but I will be. And the reason being is for the points that Chris has made. We cannot go into the second half of this season with just 3 midfielders available. You're going to add Willock as a 4th. That's fine. But Willock has already proven this season that he can't stay fit. And his injuries have been serious ones. An Achilles injury is serious. It's a serious injury. If he tears it, he's out for 8 months. It's an 8-month injury potentially. So that one we've got to tread carefully on. And again, you cannot go into the rest of a season with even 4 midfielders when you play with the 4-3-3. It just doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense. It's not good squad management. And I just think, look, we don't know the financial situation. We don't know how it stands. We can only just assume from it. But I cannot see this January transfer window go by without us not signing at least one player, at least one midfielder. I just can't. But look, it's one of them where we just wait and see. But Joelinton is a massive miss. There's no one that can do what he does on the pitch. He's so unique. And there are some games coming up, like this Villa game, for example. We would have needed him for that game, fit and firing. Like, he would have been massive for that type of game. Arsenal away, another one. Some of the home games, Luton, Bournemouth, we win those games, we can get by. But I just think, yeah, it's going to be a big miss. But I just can't see us not signing at least one player in this window.
And another thing, I was thinking about this the other night. I was going to bed and I was thinking of this. I can't see Eddie changing his tactics either, like going to, let's say, an old-fashioned 4-4 or 2 and having two centre midfielders rather than the 3, and playing Gordon and Miggy in on either wing, and then maybe putting Isak and Wilson. But I can't see him doing that. He hasn't done it in the past. I can't see him changing tactics now. He'll probably stick with his 4-3-3.
I've got a quick question just while we're on this subject of central midfielders. Someone put it in the chat and it made me shudder. I've got to be honest, it made me shudder, but I thought we need to bring this up because it's a valid question. And from Leon Seeley, do you think that if we don't bring anyone in due to FFP, that we will have to let some of the loan returnees fill in the gap until the end of the season, i.e. Joe White, who we know is coming back, and then also Isaac Hayden and Jeff Hendrick? Now, when I first saw that, I thought, oh, Leon, no. But it's a valid point. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, boys, but when I saw the Eddie Howe press conference, I'm pretty sure that Eddie Howe shut down the idea of Isaac Hayden returning to the squad. It was very much a case of he's being recalled to be sent out again. But will that change in the sense that Pete brought it up last time we were on, saying, you know, the game against Man City, it was crying out for fresh legs. It was crying out for players to come on and do a job. Now, obviously, I'm not suggesting going forward that we keep Isak Hayden or that we keep Jeff Hendrick going into next season, but we're paying the wages. The Premier League experienced. They know the squads. They're integrated already. I'm sure they're comfortable in the surroundings. I'm sure they've got a fairly good idea of how Eddie Howe plays, because even if they weren't involved in the first team training, they will have been involved with the under-21s, under-23s, whatever. And they all play the same way that Eddie Howe plays. Now, in an ideal world, boys, we don't really want the likes of Hayden and Hendrick in the squad. But is this an option, as in a stopgap, rather than bringing in somebody new who may not settle, may not acclimatise? Is it better to bring one of these boys back and just say, right, you're going to do a job until the end of the season, because we're paying them anyway? And by the sounds of things, we're finding it difficult to get them off the books. So, Daz, what are your thoughts on that?
Okay, I'll take the three players. I'll go Joe White. I haven't really seen him play, so I can't really comment on him. I think Eddie Howe said in the press conference he'd be looked at. I don't know, can he do that kind of a job, or is he going to be one of those that sits on the bench and never gets to see the light of day ever again? So I don't know with him. Hayden, I could see what you mean there. Look at. About 4 or 5 years ago, I had a fight with Supermac about Hayden, I remember. But I was defending him to the hi Supermac. I'm fighting with you now on this. But yeah, so I did always like Hayden, but yeah, his days is gone. But maybe we could come on for the last 10 minutes to see how the game is. I always did like Hayden. I respect him. He's got an awful lot of injuries in the last while. And Hendrick, if Hendrick comes back into our squad, that's it. I'm not back till the summer. That is the truth. I'm gone. Well, maybe not gone, but I'm not. I'm just. I know Jeff Hendrick. I remember the day his name came up, and I said, "No, don't bring this lad." And people started defending him. Maybe he could do it. No, lads, he's shit. And apart from that one goal he scored, he was our best striker that day. He scored a goal.
I was just about to say, I remember from the NUFC Matters days when we done the live shows, and I remember Jeff Hendrick scoring. And in the post-match, we used to do the analysis after the game. And I remember in the post-match saying to everyone, and I think everyone thought I had like 4 heads. I went, listen, guys, this is the best you'll ever see of Jeff Hendrick. Like, he scored it. I think he took a shot and it went in off the bar, and it was against West Ham, and everyone was going, "Oh,
first game of the season. Yeah.
Oh my God, Jeff Hendrick's brilliant." And I was like, guys, like, this will not happen again. Like, this is an anomaly. Please know that Jeff Hendrick is not that good. And then it turns out Jeff Hendrick scored a goal as well, didn't he? I think it was against Wolves. The game just as the takeover had happened, or the game that the takeover was about to happen. So we'll always remember Jeff Hendrick fondly. But Pete, all jokes aside, we're paying Jeff Hendrick to play football for Newcastle United. We're struggling to find another club for him, and rather than him rotting in the reserves. Is this an option till the end of the season if we're not going to bring someone else in? Would you rather see Jeff Hendrick on the bench than see an unknown 17-year-old who's probably not Premier League ready? What are you thinking?
I'll be honest, I can't see a Newcastle United team with Jeff Hendrick in it. I can't. But the frustrating thing about it is that he's commanding 50, 60 grand a week still. Yeah. Which is just for a player of his ability, astronomical wages. It is unbelievable. So the quicker his contract runs out, which I believe is the summer, the better, because we need to move on from him. I'm not being funny. Like, he's not what we need right now. Even in addition, I'd rather take somebody else. Look. Honestly, out of all 3 players, I don't think that's what we need. I think we need someone with a little bit more pedigree, someone that's ready to come in and play at that level. Because these boys, like Isak Hayden, is probably the closest out of the 3, let's say. But even Isak Hayden's a bottom of the Premier League player. He's not top of the Premier League or the top half where we're pushing for Europe. Now, could you bring him off the bench to do what we wanted on midfield to do against Man City? You could do that, of course. But the thing I worry about, boys, is with our record, it wouldn't be long before he's starting. And there's your problem.
Yeah.
With our injury record, you just don't know. And this
Bruno gets the yellow, and Isaac Hayden's like that.
Oh no.
he's like, I'm back.
Jeff Hendrick licking his lips as well.
Oh, but like, yeah, I don't see it, boys. I really don't. The young lad White, I remember seeing him at pre-season friendly at Burton. Came on as a sub and he looked lively, but he played more of an attacking role. I think he even played, as a striker in that game, but I think he is more of an attacking midfielder. I could be wrong on that, but that whenever I've seen him, I've always seen him in more of an advanced role. From what I've heard, he's had a good spell at Crewe Alexandra. Yeah, I think he had a good spell on loan there. He did really, really well. But I think, honestly, they'll hold on to these players until we've got somebody in. And if we don't, I do honestly see it probably one of them staying, which is not what we want to hear. But
it's desperate times, isn't it?
That. Yeah, I do see that. And I think someone put in the chat, it might have been Foxy, somebody put in the chat about the fact that Hayden's contract's until 2026. So we've still got him for a significant longer period of time. So it's not like oh, he's going in the summer, so you give him a couple of games and then we'll be seeing him off. Like, we actually need him to go and play football because we need him sold. The worst thing in the world happened, I think it was last season when he was on loan at Norwich. He had an obligation, providing they're promoted, and he literally missed the majority of their season. And they had huge holes in that midfield that he probably would have filled in the Championship. That would have been the ideal situation. He gets them promoted or gets them at least into the playoffs. They sign him on a permanent. Everybody's happy. It didn't happen. And I think we're going to really struggle to get rid of him now.
Interesting comment there from Foxy. Foxy reckons he likes Edison, but he's not as defensive as people think. Similar to Bruno, can't really play in that DM role alone. He's usually alongside Daroon.
That's what I thought as well from my 3-minute YouTube viewing. He did look again like Tonali and Bruno that he likes to play in a couple of different positions. But if he's coming to us, he has to sit. We need a player to sit, unless it's to leave Bruno there. But we all know that we want Bruno to try and move forward a bit.
Well, as you can see, Bruno offers more from a creative point of view, so it would just make sense to play him further forward if you were to bring someone like that in.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Where are we going next, boys?
All that Hendrick and Hayden talk.
Glad to move on.
You ruined my birthday, Chris, with talk of Hendrick.
And to be fair, obviously the Hendrick talk was brought up, like Seb brought up there in a question. So fair play to you, Seb. Being an option from the bench, we've just talked about that. So I just wanted to acknowledge that one. But there's a number of questions here. Let's have a look at. Hold on, there was a question further up that I've missed. Where is it? Here it is. Jexel, is Guirassy on the cards? 15 million release clause. What do you think, boys? Currently in the African Cup of Nations. I'm not sure if he picked up an injury actually, but what do you think?
I don't think so. I know, Pete, you've said you think maybe 2 will come in. I think it's just going to be 1, and if we're lucky, it'll be 1, and it's that defensive midfielder. I don't think we're going to go near right wing, keeper, or kind of attacking.
Yeah. I'd like to take a gamble on him. I think 15 million doesn't get you a lot these days. He's scoring goals at the minute, so I think he'd be a good signing. Don't get me wrong. We keep saying that we need that third striker because let's be honest, boys. You know, Callum Wilson's injured at the minute, and then if touching was here, if something happens to Alexander Isak, we're not only going to have a problem in the central midfield, we're going to have a problem in the striker area as well. In an ideal world, we should be looking at a central midfielder and a forward player who can play either as the central forward or even a right wing, just an option to freshen things up for Miggy. So I would certainly be interested in Garassi, and I'm hoping maybe this is slim hope that maybe nothing's happened on that yet because they're waiting until the African Cup of Nations kind of goes to the latter stages or whatnot. I don't know when it finishes, but maybe they're hoping for that to conclude and then they'll get Garassi. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think he's worth the punt at 15 million because, as we all know, boys, for the forward, 15 million's peanuts. But whether or not we go for him, I don't know. Yeah. But whether we go for him or not is a different question.
If you look at the comparison with Timo Werner, he will go for the same price with a successful loan, and being in the same league that they would be coming from, Garassi's completely outscored him. So you can see that, although Timo Werner just play off the left sometimes, but I think it's a great deal. It's a great deal, and it's one that you wouldn't really want to pass up because I think going off in the summer, I think you're going to have at least 8-9 teams probably looking for him and throwing crazy money at him. And maybe that's what he's waiting for. Who knows? Yeah. Okay. Alan Thompson says, lads, question: what would be a successful season now as we stand for Newcastle?
Easy. Win a cup or qualify for some European competition. That's success for us. I don't think if we don't qualify for Europe and we get knocked out of the cup, let's say, I don't think we can classify it as a successful season. We can classify it as a disaster of a season where everything has fallen apart on us. But we can regroup and go again with Eddie and with a few new signings and clearing the deadwood. But yeah, Europe for me.
Yeah, completely agree. Europe, and I'll downgrade it slightly, Daz. I'd say Europe and or a trip to Wembley. I think if we got to the final, I think a lot of fans would accept that. Obviously, we'd want to win it. Don't get me wrong, but I think if we had back-to-back cup finals, I think that would be seen as a success for Eddie Howe. But yeah, ultimately Europe. If we can get Europe from this position with the players that we've got out, I think the owners would look and go, bloody hell, Eddie Howe's done a fantastic job there. You know what I mean? But as it stands, it looks like it's going to be an uphill battle. And this February, March coming up is going to be huge for us to see whether or not that's going to be a possibility. Because if we can go into those games that we've already spoken about and we can pick up 2, 3, 4 wins on the bounce, all of a sudden the league's going to look a hell of a lot different. But which players are we going to have in the start 11 at that point?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the FA
for
Cup,
you, Pete.
The FA Cup, the big one, getting towards an FA Cup final. That should be the aim. At least getting to the semi-final, because semi-final is a Wembley trip anyway. So let's try and get to the semi-final. But I tell you what, the look that we've had with cup draws, like if we beat Fulham, and I hope we do, I hope we smash them, like we deserve a couple of favourable draws to get us along the way for another couple of rounds. We are. I would love to go back and see which of the top teams have had kind of a route like us in the Champions League and the League Cup, sort of, on the way, like to, I think what quarterfinals we got to for the League Cup, obviously with the group stage of the Champions League. Look at those teams that we've been drawing out. Jesus Christ, like I don't think there's many teams that have had as bad a draws as that. So I think the FA Cup needs to look after us, provided we get through and we go the distance, at least to the semi-finals. In the league, I still think we're in with a shout for Europe. I still think we're in with a shout for at least 7th place. I think 7th and the 6th is achievable. You look at our run, boys. You look at our run right now, and we're probably only still about 6 points off it. If we'd have won against Luton and Forest, I think we'd either be on the same points or above West Ham right now. And so That tells you the story, is that they're the two games that really frustrate me, because they're the two games that we should have picked up points against. Even if it wasn't 6, even if it was 4, we'd be in touching distance. And if we'd have picked up 4 points in those two games, I guarantee you we're having a different conversation here. We're still saying that European football is up. But I know for a fact that West Ham will drop points. I think they might even still be losing in the FA Cup, but I think they were losing away to Bristol
City.
At
Yeah,
one
Bristol
point,
City.
Still 1-0, 83 minutes gone. Like they've got injuries. They're in a position where they will drop points. Brighton will drop points. They've been doing it all season. Man United will be exactly the same. I still think we're in a common. I mean, I'm not talking top 5, top 4, but I still think 6th or 7th Europa Conference or a second Europa League is definitely within a conversation. We just
is that success, Pete?
Yeah, because it's back-to-back European seasons.
I've
been saying it for weeks.
Where we are now.
What's his channel here? I was saying it before, even before we had our run of defeats. Back-to-back European seasons is not the worst thing in the world. Like it's hard to get back-to-back European seasons. You look at the competition now, all the way to 9th, 10th in the Premier League. All teams have been massively competitive. Did I think earlier on in the season that we could compete for top 4? I did. And I still think on paper, we've got one of the strongest squads in the Premier League. There is no doubt about it. On paper, you look at all of our players, if available, we have got one of the strongest squads against West Ham, against Brighton, against Tottenham. Some of those teams like Arsenal, Man City, Liverpool, and that, they've got better 11s than us. But we have options off the bench that some of these other teams don't have. Even Aston Villa don't have some of the options off the bench that we have. But the problem is that obviously with the injuries, the expectations have dropped. So for me, back-to-back European seasons is a massive success. With the situation that we've been in this season, that is a big, big plus for us. And if we can achieve that, we have salvaged a really difficult season and made it a partial success.
Agree, mate. Agree. Oh, we are. William Smith's got a new song going.
You keep it, William.
What are you doing, man?
Where are we going next, lads? Is there another good question?
Yeah. There's a few we can whip through a few. We've got this one from Joelinton for life with all the injuries and now Joelinton possibly out for the rest of the season. Surely we have to get players for midfield from Saudi. Surely we have no choice now. What do we think, boys?
Well, that's a good question. Charlie 2 for life, but I would have thought, yeah, that's definitely somewhere we would be looking at. But then Darnell says about they're not looking towards the Saudi the PIF-1 teams in Saudi. So I don't know. Is it going to be something that they if everything else fails, they'll look to that in towards the very end of the window, or and there's a number of options there we could look at over various different positions, but I don't know. I think I'm going to take what he said, and I think that we're not going to go there.
Something's happened, in my opinion. Someone's had a word in someone's ear, because this vote, we were all speculating over whether we bring any Saudi players in on loan, and we were all going, oh, you know, we could rob him, or we could have him, or we could borrow him, or we could. And then the Premier League vote came out, and we were all going, we're not going to get the vote here. And then the vote fell our way, and we were like, oh, brilliant! Oh, we can do what we want. I just wonder whether, the powers that be in the Premier League have kind of sent like a little warning to say, you won't be getting anyone from Saudi, will you? And we as a club have probably gone, oh no. You know, we all know that we're being watched. I think Graham Bailey said it a number of times when he's come on the show that Newcastle are under intense scrutiny from the Premier League, and I think that is literally just rubbing salt in the wounds. If we go to Saudi and we go and get players from clubs that are also PIF owned. And I think that is the reason why we haven't gone and done that, because it makes no sense. There's 4 Saudi clubs there that a PIF owns, and that we could probably just pick up the phone and go, oh, can we have him? And they'd say, yeah, no problem. Oh, we'll talk about wages later. So to me, there's a reason why that hasn't happened. And I do believe it's more like a gentleman's agreement where they've kind of said, okay, well, you leave us be, you let us crack on. And we keep our integrity, and we're doing everything above board. See, we're not even using the Saudi loan market, and we could, but we're not. And I do think there's some kind of deal or gentleman's agreement that's gone on where we've gone, okay, well, you give us a little bit of a break and we won't touch the Saudi loan market, because the fact that we haven't even, well, both Eddie Howe and Davin Eales have come out and gone, no, it's not even a case of, oh, we might. Because if you remember, Eddie Howe, when first questioned on it, was like, it's something we'll look at. And now they've both adamantly come out and gone, no, not going to happen.
The other thing is, the other thing I hear Chelsea and Arsenal looking towards the Saudi market, and looking for a striker. They're both looking for a striker. They're talking Benzema, maybe one. Yeah.
Are we waiting for the floodgates to open? Are we waiting? Because we don't want to be the first club to get a Saudi player in on loan. If we're not the first, will that then open the floodgates? Because then we can go, well, hang on, Chelsea have done it, Arsenal have done it, Man U have done it. Are we waiting for somebody to break that seal so that we can go, oh, well, everyone else is doing it, so we can do it? I think we don't want to be the first club. Best case scenario, we don't want to be the first club to kind of do it, because if we're the first club that does it and we're the ones who have got the same ownership, guaranteed everyone's going to jump on us. And I just don't know whether we'd want that scrutiny.
And also, how much? Sorry, Pete. Also, what kind of wages are they going to pay? What percentage of that wages are they going to pay will be vital as well. So let's say Benzema's probably on crazy money. Let's say Arsenal or Chelsea picked him up and they were paying, I don't know, 20. They could probably afford to pay the wages he might be on. But if they're saying paying a certain percentage, maybe we have some kind of wiggle room there. Then, but I still don't think it'll happen. Sorry, Pete.
No. I was going to say, I think Benzema's on about 600 grand a week. So and I think also we're talking about, or fans were talking about, oh, why don't we pay half of that 300? Because I think that's how much they pay Kai Havertz. I think he's on about that 300 grand a week. It's just mind-boggling that they've not only paid 65 million for Kai Havertz, that they're paying him over 300 grand a week. Like, it's mad. But Arsenal probably have got the finances to do that. LB 1998 says Benzema's on 1 million a week. That's even worse. I did see 600 somewhere, but I could be wrong. But who's to say that we're not going to be the ones to get the last laugh and act last? Like, what better situation would it be than a deadline day deal to get one of your Saudi stars where no one can react? No one can react to it. We just get the deal done. Boom. It's agreed. Loan. Everything signed. Faxed over within an hour or two before the window closes. You don't have to do the medical here. The medical can be done over there, because as everyone likes to say, the PIF own those clubs. Everything is easily transferable, should we say. So
is this the reason for the delay, Pete? Is this why there's no panic? Is this why we're all chilled? Or do you think there is some element of us waiting for someone, like I mentioned before, breaking that seal, so that it's not, oh, naughty Newcastle, because then we go, well, other clubs have done it, so why can't we do it? Whereas if we're the first club to do that, everyone's going to jump on Newcastle and go, oh, it's a con. They planned this all along. Are we waiting? Do you think that's what we're waiting for, or is that last resort territory?
Well, I don't really know. Like, I'm just thinking about, from a Newcastle perspective, why might they wait until later on in the window? Is it that they don't want any other players to come over? Do they not want any other club? Because we've just had the conversation. It seems like everyone's a little bit tentative about well, should we go to Saudi? Should we not? Like, nobody's quite sure or quite ready where to go. And is it the case that Newcastle are just kind of waiting in the background, just going, okay, no one's going. We've got to remember, we have the easier link. We have the easiest link out of the lot, because we've got the connection. And we're going, okay, nobody's going. Let's just see who's available. We can have those conversations. How much the wages they're on. Last couple of days of window, bang, bang, bang. Like,
bang, tug out. You're playing against Luton Town.
yeah,
There you go.
there you go. And look, we could be completely wrong here, but I think what we're doing now is just trying to process and trying to think in our minds why haven't we acted? Why haven't we gone and got players in? And I think it could be a fair assessment to think that they're waiting for later on in the window to act, to see where the land lies. We've got 2 more games before the window's out. Fulham in the FA Cup, Villa. Newcastle don't want any more injuries. Do we wait to see? Do we wait to see if Bruno gets booked again and he's out for 2 games? Like, is that part of that conversation? Like, if he's out, do we then have to get somebody in to be ready for Luton? Like, there could be all these sorts of questions, and I'm not quite sure why. And I think that's what's baffling a lot of Newcastle fans, personally.
Yeah, so if Bruno picks up a booking in the Fulham FA Cup match, that counts, does it, towards the 10, or is it? Do we have to wait for the Villa game?
We had this conversation last time, didn't we? Because if Bruno got booked in the Premier League and then there was an FA Cup game, I'm pretty sure, anyone in the chat tell me I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure if we had the FA Cup game, so say Bruno got a yellow in that Man City game, I think he'd miss the FA Cup game and he'd miss the Villa game. I don't know whether the rules change if you get the booking in the FA Cup game and whether that means he misses 2 future FA Cup games or whether he'd miss the 2 coming up Premier League games. I'm not quite sure on the rulings of it. I'm pretty sure he would miss some domestic games, but I'm not sure.
No, I think it would just be. I don't think it would be just FA Cup. I think it would be whatever next 2 games would be up. So I think it would be Villa and Luton.
Yeah.
But Eddie Howe's going to have to have a word with him. You don't want to take away from his game because he is an aggressive player, but
it's going to happen. It's coming in the next 3 games. There's no way he goes 3 games without getting another.
And it'd be typical that it'd be typical that he's gone for these games, for this run of games, Luton, Forest, Bournemouth, where you'd want him playing, you'd need him playing to get the results. It's almost like you'd probably take the Villa away and the Luton at home, because you could probably, with a couple of signings coming in, you could still get a result against Luton at home. You could probably. Oh, Jesus Christ!
Wow.
Hey, Jordan 2 for Life, do not worry. He's getting pelters as we speak in the chat. It's been going on for a while, and he doesn't seem best pleased about it either. That's for sure. But
David R's demanding it, Pete. He's demanding it. He's demanding Lawless gets called out tonight.
No, I think there'll be. I hope there's a video in the next show, a short story, if we will, to welcome Lawless back in and bring it back down to earth a little bit. But there you go. You look at that team tonight. No Bowen, no Paqueta, no. I think there's like 2 or 3 other players that are injured as well. Like, they're missing massive players. They got Ben Rama sent off. They had Danny Ings up front. You know, they had an unrecognisable team. That's just what 3 players do to you. In a West Ham team that have been the most luckiest team, that have had the least amount of injuries of any Premier League side this season. They've had next to nothing. But they lose 3 players, and look what happens to them. And then you go back to us, 14, 15 players at one point, and we're still within 6 points of them. This is what fills me with confidence, boys. This is why I still think that we're still in a race.
Yeah.
Speaking of Lucas Paqueta, look at the link in here. There was 2 boys on a video today talking about who they'd like, what other Brazilian player they'd like to bring into Newcastle. Both of them agreed on Lucas Paqueta, and J7 wanted Victor Jr. in there as well, Vinny Jr. But yeah, and these are your pictures, Pete. Great shots of the guys in the old kits. And here's Isak as well, and Gordon. So yes, I think it's all linked into some retro kits being released by Adidas in the near future, and promoting the Predator boots as well that Gordon has on his shoulder.
They are
Yeah.
going to make an absolute fortune, aren't they? Just looking at those,
Yeah.
Pictures, I was like, ooh. They're just going to make an absolute killing on those shirts alone, let alone the new ones.
I didn't realize just by looking at those shirts how many away kits I had. So the Isak one, the Isak one, that away kit, I had that one.
Yeah.
No name or number on the back, but I had that one. I think my mum might still have it somewhere. Like there's a lot of stuff I need to sift through. And the one that Joelinton had, I absolutely loved that kit. I know a lot of people didn't like it, but I absolutely loved it, and I had that one growing up. Lee would always have all the home kits, so he had the one that Bruno's wearing. But I tended to always buy the away kits.
I've got the Bruno one he's got on there. I didn't have the Isak one. I used to have the Joelinton one, but I haven't got it anymore. I've still got that Bruno one upstairs actually. And funnily enough, I didn't have the Gordon one, but I've got to play it in my mind. What player does that bring to mind to you boys? Because there's one player to me that I think of every time I see that shirt.
I have that shirt, and I've got Robert at the back of it. Actually, it's all faded. I think it's Robert I've got on that one. Yeah, it is. But when I think about who springs to mind, Gary Speed, maybe.
Yeah. That blue trim, Gary Speed. Speed. Every time I see that shirt, I always think of Gary Speed.
Kieran Dyer for me.
Kieran Dyer. Oh, and was Alain Gomez? Was Alain Gomez?
Oh my God!
Yeah.
He was, wasn't he? He was.
Jesus
he was.
Christ!
Yeah.
Alain Gomez.
Yeah.
I wonder. I think Clarence Acuna might have wore that one.
Yeah, I think he did.
I think he wore that one. I'm
not sure did Clarence Acuna have the Bruno one on as well? Or was that too early? I don't feel like I'd see Clarence Acuna in that as well.
He might have still been around. I think he was still around.
To me, that one, the one that Bruno's wearing there, it's Dieter Hammond.
Yes.
Oh,
and Andreas Anderson.
Yeah, Andreas Anderson. I don't forgive Dietmar Hamann. Dietmar Hamann is like Liverpool. He's erased from Newcastle history because he was so good for us and then fobbed us off and went to Liverpool. He was erased from my memory.
He was quality for us that season.
Big Laurent. Boys, we'll have just a couple more questions.
Over.
There's lots and lots of questions in here, and just before we get to those questions, the Bearded 2 fan, big follower of the channel, he's been followed over to 12th Man as well, but he's always on here and enjoying the show. As well as that, Stephen Fairbairn, great show, you lot in the chat, always throwing some great questions and answers. Loving it tonight. Smash the like, can see another hour. We would love to do another hour, but I don't think our wives would allow it. I don't think we'd be sleeping in our homes tonight if that was the case. But we appreciate the support all the same. And Ashley says, "Evening, guys, great show as always. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much for your support. And if you haven't been a subscriber, or if you haven't liked the show at this point, make sure you do. Come and follow the channel. We're nearly at we're just over 600 away from 7K. We're pushing all the way up. So if it gives another a few subscribers before the end of the show, that would be amazing. Thank you for your support.
And share, spread the word as well. Share the show, get your friends or even Twitter, all your socials, tell them about us and where they can find us, and try and help us grow the audience, grow the channel. All help is appreciated, as well as Chris puts up the platforms so we can find us: YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, and Amazon Music. Get on the socials on X/Twitter, TikTok, and Insta. We may go into Facebook later down the line, but we're not there yet. And for any business inquiries, you can get us on Loaded Mag NUFC info, all one word, @gmail.com. So
That's it. It'd be interesting to see from people in the chat actually. Either put it in the live chat or put it in the comments afterwards. Who uses Facebook from people in the chat. Would you want Loaded to come onto Facebook to put bits of content and information out there? Let us know, because if it's something that you want, then it's something we maybe can look into potentially doing. But yeah, let us know either before or after.
Good point. Good point.
After this, there is it's a double whammy actually. So I'm going to ask Barry Simpson's question, which is, how much is Isak worth? And Tom Dixon also asked the question, how many goals would Isak actually score in a full season? Now, this is effectively his full season because he has been injured for a period of time, but let's say it's his full season because he's on 14 goals at the moment. So how many goals do you think he'll score by the end of this season? I'm tweaking that slightly, Tom. And how much do you think he's worth? Great questions, Barry and Tom.
I'll kick it off because for me, I think Isak is a 25 goal a season striker, and a talking 25 Premier League goal season striker, not including all competitions. So I'd say 25 goals in the Premier League for Alexander Isak in a full season. And in terms of value, he's got to be minimum 120. He's got to be. We bought him for 63. And I'd want double to even at least entertain having a conversation about it. And we all know, boys, that strikers have inflated prices. So if Kai Havertz is 60 million, you've got to be talking mega money for Isak. I mean, how many people, Pete, I saw it on the 12th man, how many people are now all saying, wow, this Isak's special. He's the second best striker behind Haaland. If City were to sell Haaland tomorrow, it's 200 million. Isak's worth at least 120, at least. That would, even to entertain a conversation over Isak leaving, it would have to be minimum 120. And I'd want more, but that would be the minimum.
For me, I agree with what Chris is saying. I think he's a 25 goal plus striker, especially with our full team around him, our backups for when people gets injured, and him not playing, running himself into the ground and being able to be taken off on 70 minutes for a goal or two up or whatever. Like, I have someone to represent. So he's definitely get 25 goals a season then for me. How much is he worth? Priceless for me. I wouldn't even entertain anything under 120 million. And just to add to that, in the conversation with Bruno and J7, if you've seen that little video, about 10-minute video today, but they get to pick whoever they want in a five-a-side. They can't include themselves, and they put a few Brazilians in there, including Neymar and Vini Jr. But they have Isak up front, so they value Isak. So those guys can put anyone they want in there, and they're picking Isak. So says it all.
Iceman.
Ballers recognize ballers. That's the way it is. For me, I don't even entertain it until it's 130. And the reason why I'm saying 130 is because that's what Victor Osimhen is rated at. And for all the talk of, we should go for Victor Osimhen, we should go get him, we don't need to, because we've got our version here. And for me, he's worth just as much as that. I wouldn't even sell him then. Someone just put 150 million in the chat. I think that's more than reasonable, and the reason why is because strikers are a real hot commodity now.
Yeah,
they're a hot commodity just for putting the ball in the net. Now you add to the fact that Isak is sensational on the ball, that he can travel with the ball, he can dribble, he can take on players, he's fast, he can score goals in the air, right foot, left foot, penalties. He can do the lot. I've said it before. He's the complete striker. He can do everything, and there are not many strikers that can do that in the world. We had the conversation before. I've had it on 12th man as well with regards to Haaland and Isak being the second best striker. He is the second best striker because Haaland is so good at the elements of the game that he's good at, but Haaland is not the complete striker. He can't do everything. Isak can do everything. And I think if Isak steps up and even gets even better, he's only just turned 24, I think he could. For me, I think he could potentially get on that level. But like all these other clubs getting excited. Arsenal are getting so excited about the thought of them potentially signing him. I had Henry Wright on the channel last night saying about how Tottenham could potentially sign him and how they should sign. They don't even pay 80 million for their players. You think they're going to pay 100 million for a striker? You got no chance with Daniel Levy. And even then, we'd be laughing at them.
You're not kicking this king off the throne. No way. No way.
I think he genuinely loves it in this club. I think he loves it. I really do. I think he's found his home.
Yeah. There he is.
There he is. All smiles.
Where's his dog stars?
I think they're all in your house, Chris.
Yes, they are, yeah.
Where are we going next, lads?
Yeah, that was a kind of a double whammy. Just a quick one on this one. Do you think Ashworth will leave to join Man United?
No.
Easy. Interesting. We've just talked about it. How many points do you think we'll get from the next 5 fixtures? Villa, Luton, Forest, Bournemouth, and Arsenal. How many points are we getting, boys?
Eight.
I think 10. I'm saying draw at Villa, beat Luton, beat Forest, beat Bournemouth, and lose at Arsenal.
Yeah, I had 10 in my mind. I'm going to go with 9 because I think that's the minimum we should be getting from these group of games. So I'm going to stick with 9, but I did have 10 in my mind. I don't know where the draw's coming from, but out of Villa and Arsenal, but I fully expect us, regardless of what we've got available, to beat Luton at home, Forest away, Bournemouth at home. I do feel that should be the least expectation. Question from William: if Lewis Hall transfer goes through, would you entertain loaning him out for at least a part of next year?
No. I think he needs to stay around Eddie Howe, and I think really when you're paying that amount of money for a player, I think we need to try and integrate him in the squad. Yes, he's taken longer than the likes of Livramento, but I think Eddie Howe will want to keep him close. I mean, we've seen that with the younger players that he trusts, like Louis Miley stayed, Elliot Anderson stayed, and I think Lewis Hall will stay. So I think we'll keep him on the squad.
I think we answered that question at the end of pre-season. See how he gets on there. But if he's going to be sitting on the bench and only getting a bit, because we're going to be bringing in more players, so he's going to, if he falls further down the pecking order, then yes, I would consider loaning him out because we need to ensure he still has value. I don't want him sitting on the bench like an Alex Murphy is doing this season, and he only got a couple of minutes. I know there's more to come this season, but I don't want them losing value either or stunting their growth like Matty Longstaff. But it would make no sense.
Can he afford to buy him though, Daz, for 30 mil and then loan him out?
I know it just makes no sense, but it maybe we have no choice but to buy him now. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah,
because if we have a choice, I'd instill in whether the deal goes through or not. I consider my options.
There's a few really good questions here to kind of finish on. Quick fire ones. Tom Dixon says, if someone came in for Lascelles in the transfer window, would you consider the bid?
Yes.
Yes, because his contract's running out, but it's going to be a very low bid. So it depends how much the bid is, really, Tom.
Okay. Would you consider Emil Smith Rowe? Surely the market value is decreasing, potentially a loan.
Yes, but I wouldn't put an obligation in. It would have to be an option because 1, he's got a really bad injury record, and 2, I don't know if he's going to reach the heights that he first reached at Arsenal. He's struggling to get back into the team. I know Arteta still keeps him in and around the squad, but it would have to be a loan with an option. Bit like Calvin Phillips, really. Loan with an option. I'd want to see him first.
Loan with option for me as well, Seb. But if you remember, we have no football friends, as Eddie Howe says. So I don't think that will happen.
Arsenal for life? No, you're not. You're not getting them.
You can't afford them, mate. You can't afford them.
They can't. They can't afford.
You can see him. You can see him when we play in March. I think it is start of March. But he'd be playing for us.
You see how much they struggled to get bloody Rice through the door. You had to wait weeks and weeks to try and get through the door, to try and conjure up all that money to put together for a bid. You ain't got 150 million. That's your whole budget. Your budget's gone. Come on, man. You know the score. Last few. Nick's just said this channel should have way more subscribers. Fantastic Newcastle United content. Thank you very much, Nick. Much appreciated. And
we're delighted with the subscribers we do have and all the views you guys give us. So like you have to weigh up. We enjoy getting the views and come in and join us.
Definitely. Last two questions. David R says, "Are you doing a Jim White special transfer deadline show?"
I feel like we might have to. On
the suits.
Yeah.
On the suits, with the Saudi special and all these lads getting off the plane.
Saudi tie. Got to do the Saudi tie. We're gonna have to.
So what's the space, David R? And lastly, ties in nicely. Tom Dixon says, "When's the next show?"
For me, your guess is as good as mine, Tom. When will something happen? I know we've got some things planned for next week, all right. But things are fluid, and as news breaks, we kind of make decisions. Like yesterday, we made a decision we're going to do a show. We didn't know when. We said, we'll do it today. So, but yeah, unless you guys are thinking something else.
We can do it if people are if we're all available tomorrow. We can maybe do one. Have a chat tomorrow, Thursday. You guys know the score, guys and girls. Just keep an eye on socials. We'll put the show out there. But yeah, keep your eyes peeled. Maybe tomorrow, Thursday. You just never know. You never know.
You never know. Come with the signing show.
That would be a dream.
That would be a dream, yeah. Right. Right. A reminder as well, smash that like button on your way out. But a shout out to our sponsors. A shout out to the radiatorshed.com and the fab radiators that Russ has going there. Go check them out. Go check out the website for the latest. I know there's new pictures on the way. So Russ will send them on to us and we'll get sorted on that. You want to see the new radiators. As I know some people love the radiator bit in this show. But also shout out to the Northeast Partnerships, the Install Works, Russ's other company there. So if you need to get those radiators installed, Russ will sort you out in the loaded van. Also shout out to HCO Bathroom Design Co. and the fab bathrooms that the guys have there. So again, we're going to get new pictures and show you the latest and greatest because it's changed a bit from the pictures we have here. And get down to the showroom. Go talk to the guys if you're in the market. If you know someone's in the market, go talk to them. Russ in the Radio Shed and Martin in H2O Bathroom Design Co. Mention us as well, and they'll walk you through what the latest and greatest is. If you're interested as well in becoming a member, you can hit that join button and you'll become a member. And we do have monthly prize draws. What we think of it, I guess, or whatever we're doing, but gets you in the draw for some prizes. That is it, guys, I guess. Anthony, you want to end on?
I think it's been a great show. Been a really good chat. Massive thanks to everyone in the chat because I think, speak for all of us, I think those comments and questions tonight were brilliant. Some really informative comments and questions. And we just apologise we didn't get through them all. I think there was probably about 8 or 9 left that we highlighted that we didn't get to. So we apologise for that, but superb stuff. Brilliant. Thank you.
Right, well, we have a special one, so to see this out. No, we don't have a special one. We're sticking with Eddie. How'd you like that? Good night, everyone.
How you like?